Hello everyone, I am Nicole from the Retail Success Series. I am lucky to have Matt Unwin with me today, and Matt and I originally met a few months ago at a beautiful lunch
it was lovely.
at Point Leo Estate. Yes. Very, very lucky to share a pre-Christmas lunch together, and that's where we met and immediately started talking all things customer experience.
Much to the chagrin of my wife and various other members at the table. Yes.
So thank you for joining me today, Matt, and for being here with me rather than Zooming. So much appreciated. Tell us a little bit about your journey and how customer experience has become one of your passions.
Oh gosh. Look, I actually started in sales many years ago, and I was very good at it, to the point where I actually had a bit of a crisis of conscience and realised that people were buying just because they liked the interactions with me, and not so much because they desperately needed whatever it was that I was selling. So I had this massive crisis of conscience and decided that I would move well away from sales, and in fact made a vow that I'd never return to it. I went into working in customer service. So I started in hotels and hospitality. I was working as a concierge.
Oh, right.
I even did restaurant management. Then I had, after a brief stint as a robotic hydraulic engineer.
Okay, that fits in there.
Yeah, it's completely aligned. I actually moved into working for Telstra. And I started in a call center, helping teams sort of build teams around customer service, worked into team management. Then I ran the first email call center, and all through this journey, so this is back in the late 90s and early 2000s when people were just learning what email was, and Telstra had 5,000 of them just sort of backed up with nobody addressing them. I got to develop the customer experience for how emails would be managed within Telstra, and we had a call center that ran there was a day call center, and we ran a night call center that just focused on emails. Basically processed emails from midnight through till 8 a.m. and then swapped seats with people who picked up the phones. And it was great for me because I learned from grassroots how an online experience had to happen. Then I went and was involved in developing Telstra's online billing system, and calls yet to be billed, and figuring out how that would work. Then I became the senior online business specialist at Telstra, dealing with things like how do they find Telstra stores, and how do they self-service, and how do they not call up Telstra for a dozen things that they could do much easier themselves online. And how do you make that something that's important for the business? How does the business see that that's important, so they invest in that? So that's what I did. When I left there, I worked for Deakin University in new digital experiences, AR, VR, augmented realities, and AI and robotics. All of these new digital frontiers that students would want to interact with that we aren't currently equipped for. So how do we develop those experiences and then deliver them in a way that makes sense to students? Because when they leave the university and go into the real world, that's the kind of experiences they need to have.
Absolutely.
And after that, I went back into sales. I went into sales.
We have to circuit.
Yeah. I went back into sales with an organisation that was vehemently and robustly interested in changing the experience that they were giving their clients. They had a problem. They had a very large attrition rate. They were losing more customers than they were gaining. They were gaining customers at a great rate, but they were a software as a service company that needed to retain those for maximum lifetime customer value. The LCV of their customers was in 2-3 years' time, not in getting them on board and then losing them after a year. The challenge with that is that their experiences that they were giving customers from first principles, from the first time the customer ever thought, I need this service, who can help me, to the moment that a salesperson interacted with them, to the moment they then started interacting with the customer success team who were implementing that solution for them, it was fractured, it was not consistent. And as a result, the customers would see out their first year, and a lot of them were going, we're moving away. We're not renewing. We're not going to keep going. That was the sort of start of the journey of this holistic CX. How do we really understand the entire journey for a customer and make sure that the consistency, the trust, the hygiene factors and the wow factors are all laid out in a way that makes sense for that customer? So that was kind of the journey, and I'm still doing it today.
That is a hell of a journey. I love it. So anyone in corporate life, and my husband's had a bit of a journey like that as well. I love that. I was sort of sitting, the big note I took from that, going way back to your Telstra days, you're talking about the frequently asked questions. And at a big company, we sometimes think, oh, well, that doesn't relate to small business, but it absolutely does. And the principles behind a lot of the things that these big guys do, we should be doing as well. Particularly, I'm on a bit of a rant on the frequently asked questions at the moment and how important it is to try and fix that on your website so that you're not going to annoy customers and you can answer questions.
And make it as easy to interact with as possible. My wife runs a dance studio. One of the fundamental things we do on the website, and even in early interactions, even when they're interacting on the Facebook and they're asking questions on Facebook, we're using we call it AI, but it's actually just a smart decision tree that Facebook offer to answer questions. So when you get an inquiry via Facebook, you can put in recently asked questions answers that will automatically play out that you don't need to be there to answer. That's really important, because the sooner the customer gets those answers, the better equipped they are to have a more robust interaction with you. For my wife's dance studio, understanding what the expectation is for a new client or for a prospective client coming into the studio, if you don't answer those questions before they enter the studio, you probably lost them already. Before they've even stepped a foot or paid a first class fee or anything, you've lost them because they've arrived with the wrong shoes, the wrong outfit, feeling uncomfortable in an environment in which everybody else is wearing the right shoes and the right outfit, and you lost them before they even stepped in the room. So make that available. If there are things that they can do to better prepare for an in-store experience or an in-studio experience, as the case may be, give that to them in the first interactions they have with your thing. Think about that whole journey that client has through your store or through your studio or through your retail outlet, whatever it happens to be, and think about the information they're going to need at each step of the journey and have it there for them before they even ask.
Yep, absolutely. I'm throwing you under the bus a bit here, Matt, but I want people to tell us if they want to know more about AI, because when we spoke, you had everything recorded on an AI thingy. I do use ChatGPT, but that's as far as I go, and I use it a lot, and I think it's brilliant. It is transformed how I can get communications out to my clients. But if you want Matt to create a course with me on AI for retailers, then you need to tell us.
There's a lot there, right? It's overwhelming.
I was going to say there's so much. We need to just say what is useful for retailers. Look, and make it easy.
That is absolutely true. If you want to understand the impact that AI is going to have on you and your clients, you need to ask, because it's too late to wait for everybody else to come up with the solutions and then you just adopt those, because you'll have lost your client base. You'll have lost the opportunity to be in front of that. Even worse is if you try and apply AI in a way that you haven't thought through that entire customer experience. It can be overwhelming for a customer as well to feel like they're having an interaction with a real person and getting answers that are 90% great and 10% hang on. Because there's one thing I always talk about, and that is about that consistency of experience. The moment that consistency, the moment that I can depend on this experience to be right, the moment they have a moment, it starts to break down the trust. And that trust is a hygiene factor. And for any retailer, you've got to get the hygiene factors absolutely nailed. So AI can either be your best friend or your worst enemy.
So we're going to park AI for now. But having said that, as I said, I'm going to talk to you separately. And if you guys want to know more about it, I'll tell you what, we've got the man in the room who knows, because I was so impressed. I went back to our notes when I was prepping for our discussion today, because we had some fabulous conversations and that was just so easy. So anyway, that's something, if you want to know about us, let us know, and then we will work on a solution on that. Let's go back. You just mentioned the word hygiene. Tell me about customer experience and what do you mean by hygiene?
Right. So when we're talking about customer experience holistically, there's two main elements. The first is the hygiene factors. That's the basics. That's, some people call them the bread and butter.
I call them essentials.
Cool. The essentials. You've got to get the essentials right. They're non-negotiables. The hygiene factors in any customer interaction are the elements that will make or break your business. You can have a successful, succeeding, driven business just by getting the hygiene factors right.
Yep.
Brand loyalty, word of mouth advocacy, all those sorts of things are built on those hygiene factors. Those hygiene factors are making sure that you think about things like the omni-channel experience. If you have a retail bricks and mortar store and you have a retail online presence, you've got to make sure that there is a consistency of experience across both of those. Admittedly, online, you're not going to get the salesperson sitting in front of you having that interaction with you, but there's no reason why you can't have, here's some suggested things that other people have bought. You know, here's some personalized suggestions based on your buying principles over the last 12 months.
Yep.
Here's an assistant, you know, even an AI assistant. You know, here's a channel for you to ask questions that we can get you responses. That's the omni-channel experience. That's part of the hygiene factors. Making sure that a customer can find your site, interact with it easily, add things to a cart and check out and pay all online in a very easy, simple, straightforward way that doesn't make them feel like they're lost at any stage or that they feel like they've lost control. Ironically, customers do feel like they're out of control, both in a retail, in a bricks and mortar environment and an online environment. They can feel like they're out of control. If they feel like too much is coming at them at any given time, or they feel like they're being railroaded down a particular path, it's interesting. Different customers have different triggers for this sort of feeling of being overwhelmed or being out of control. I was talking with somebody the other day who had implemented a tool set that they had been sold on. It is a fictitious tool set for many retailers, and that is such and such just bought blah, blah, blah. It's a pop-up that appears in the bottom left-hand corner of their website.
Oh, yeah.
And it says, you know, Janice from Mooney Ponds just bought blah, blah, blah. It is supposed to be a prompter of you to go, oh, there's activity happening here
FOMO.
all the time. Yeah, FOMO, absolutely. And for many people, it works. It is just an encouragement to complete a cart process or to go and make your purchase. Another percentage of people, and I wouldn't say it's a larger percentage, but it is a large percentage of people, that is a trigger. I'm moving away from the site.
Wow.
Yep. Because they go, I recognize this as a push tactic. Yep. And I am going to back away from that. Because it's disingenuous with the experience they're having across the rest of the site.
Yeah.
If that is the site, if the site is all about get it now, it's quick, they're going, all that sort of stuff, then customers have an expectation and they know that they're going to experience that. It's catch of the day or it's Kogan, and they're having those sales that happen only for the next 8 hours. And if you don't grab it, then it will go back up.
Yep.
That's fine. Have those pop-ups, you know, because that's not disingenuous with the feeling you have the rest of the site.
Yeah.
But if you're selling, I don't know, meditation packages, you know, for a retreat in the hills, don't have a pop-up that says such and such just bought whatever, and then there's another one, and then there's another one. It's disingenuous.
I love that. I've not heard that. I certainly have looked at it. I've never had it on my old website.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, I can see why people would have it, but I can also see exactly what you're saying. And I think it's important. I happen to be recording my customer experience courses where, you know, this week and aligning expectations and making sure the customer understands what they're getting from you.
Yep.
And making sure at all steps it aligns with your messaging and your end product and service. And that is exactly, as you say, across. If it's, you know, you've got a high-end, beautiful product and then you've got the salesman at the bottom pushing you to make the purchase.
Look, my catchphrase, if you take nothing else away from this entire podcast, take this away. The only reason that any relationship breaks down, regardless of whether it's personal, business, professional, whatever it happens to be, the only reason that any relationship breaks down is unmet expectations. So if you set an expectation and you fail to meet it, it degrades the relationship you have with whoever you set that expectation with. Likewise, if you fail to set an expectation, then it's very hard for you to meet an expectation because you failed to set it correctly.
Yeah.
Think about your entire customer experience. Think about the first time a customer ever sees your brand, ever asks the question, hey, I've got this problem, who can help me? And how they take that journey, and then make sure that at every step along that journey, you are thinking about, is this consistent? with the expectation that I have set. Have I set the appropriate expectation already? If not, how quickly can I set that expectation so they understand what the experience is going to be like through the rest of the process?
And this doesn't have to be complicated.
No.
As in, you work out your ideal customer, you work out what solution you have for that ideal customer.
Yep.
Personally, I feel it's important to align your principles and your values with your brand and make sure other people understand what that is. There's nothing more than that. Then making sure that the messaging all correlates with that core. So you're working your core and you're working out, and you got the core right, and then you get your messaging right. Make sure your staff and everyone else knows that messaging and understands exactly what the values are of that business.
Absolutely, because that core, that getting at basics right, making sure your staff are knowledgeable and understand the product or products that they are selling. Nothing worse than walking into a bricks and mortar store, talk to a sales consultant or a specialist and saying, hey, I'm looking at X, Y, and Z, what do you think? And they go, yeah, I don't know anything about that. Like, that's Harvey Norman experience. Like, I'm not buying specialist electronics from Harvey Norman. If I want a dishwasher, then I might go to Harvey Norman. But I guarantee you I've done my research online first, and I might just go and buy it because it's convenient from that local retailer. If I'm going to buy sports equipment, then I'm going to somewhere where they're going to give me that additional value that I need to get the right thing.
Yeah.
That's your core. Like, so getting all those basics right. Nobody leaves a business because the business didn't deliver amazing wow factors. They leave a business because they didn't get the core, the hygiene factors right.
So right, and we get caught up in the wow factor because that's the fun bit. We get bored with the essentials. That's right. Yeah. We don't want to deal with that. It's like getting home and having to cook the family meal and do the housework. Who wants to do that?
The wow factors are where the fun is, right? We understand that. The wow factors are what gets you a marketing award, or you know, it's nobody goes, wow, they absolutely nailed the cart ad and cart checkout process. Whoa, let's give them an award. It just doesn't happen. No. But the reality is the customer cares more about the get it to the cart.
The money is in the bread and butter.
It is. Get that right, and then you've got time to do the wow factor. And in fact, if you understand your ideal customer profile, if you really understand the product that you're selling and how it fits that, what your unique value proposition is, forget about your competitors. If you can figure out your own and you can solve those basics, and you can understand how your ideal customer profile or your ideal customer matches to your unique value proposition, then you can get those basics right. Once you've got the basics right, there's a lot you can do to basically automate that and make sure that that just takes care of itself. Then you can worry about your wow factors.
And I think that's it. I think we get caught up in the day-to-day and we end up with a to-do list that's too long, and we don't realise the value. I was actually meeting with someone yesterday talking about the processes and getting those processes, and even at small levels, we can get processes in place. There's no reason that your staff should have to call you to answer a question about your refund policy or anything. The information should be there and clear and easy for your team to implement for every customer that walks in the door and have the same experience for every one of them.
It's a false economy, right? It's a false economy to say, I'm too busy to sort those things out.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, if you're too busy to sort those things out, then you will never have the time to sort those things out because you're spending all your time dealing with the impacts of those.
Yep.
All of the things that you didn't sort out are the things that are making you busy.
So right. So, and that's again, the frequently asked questions is the one that I think we just don't give. It takes away so much work if we can get that right.
Yeah, there are some great tools, and they don't even need to be AI driven. They can be decision tree driven. There are some great decisions out there for chatbots that can deliver some really engaging customer interactions.
Yeah.
And answer those questions in a way that is, hey, I'm interested in X, Y, and Z. You know, where can I find your store?
Yep.
Those sorts of things delivered by a good tool set, delivered by a bad tool set, it can be really horrible, but delivered by a good tool set can give the customer such a good experience that they actually go, yeah, I know it was a chatbot. I know you were avoiding my call or avoiding my thing, but I got what I wanted in a really quick way, in a way that made sense to me and delivered what I need.
Yep.
Who cares?
Yep. And as we've been talking, I've been thinking the one word I wrote down is test. Because I think the one thing we do is we'll set up our website or we'll get the store ready and it's done. That's it. We don't have to touch it again. But then we might make some change or we add an app for something. And it's very easy to not test. And I know I've had this experience where the cart isn't working and I'm unaware that I'm losing sales. And I met another woman recently. So just as a warning, an app was obviously not working well with the cart and people couldn't put everything in. Sales were dropping, but you don't know why. So I guess I'm saying if you do make changes, go through and actually take that extra little bit of time to test them as well with an actual process. And the problems I found, just as a little tip, is when you're putting more items into a cart, particularly with Shopify. So put 10 items in the cart so you can see that the actual transaction will work. Then reverse it.
When you've got time, because you've nailed the hygiene factors, actually invest some time in thinking about how could this work better? I've got an understanding of how my ideal customer will work through this experience, but I actually want to now go, what would an AI chatbot look like? So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to set up 2 site instances, right? And there are lots of organizations that can help you to do this, so you don't have to take this on yourself. But I'm going to set 2 site instances and I'm going to serve half of my customers up the old site, half of my customers up the new site. And then I'm going to give surveys. I'm going to talk to customers who made sales during that period, talk to them directly, call them up even and say, what was that experience like? How did you like the AI assistant that helped you or the chatbot assistant that helped you through that sales process? What did you think about the suggestions that we made? All these changes that I made on site B, find out what's working, what's not working, what is actually prompting them to have a better experience or what's prompting them to go, actually, no, I backed away from that. You can find all that out with A/B testing. And it's something that a website designer or a customer interaction specialist would take you through. But there's plenty of organizations that can do that. In fact, you can even find people on Fiverr who can help you to do that. So those sorts of gig sites, really worthwhile.
I think that having those people that you've connected with and used, being able to go back to them when you need things done, because
they
again,
understand the site.
We've got to take the hats off. If it's going to take you 3 days to do something you can pay someone 2 hours to do, then maybe you're better off getting someone else.
Exactly. It's an absolute better investment unless you want to learn how to do it. One of my faults, if you like, is that every time I see something really new and interesting, like AI or whatever, I just spend way too much time investing my own personal time. My wife will go, are you still in the study at like 9:30 at night? Because I'm playing with these things and going, look, this is what excites me. I want to know these things.
Yeah, absolutely. Talking about the hygiene factors, and so obviously the bread and butter, but they are bringing in the money for the business, they're core. So what's the point of the wow factors? Why do we bother with the wow factors if we can make a business successful without them?
There is a difference between a business that is successful and a business that's thriving, flourishing. There's also a difference between your business and somebody else's business. What is that? Quite often it's, if your business is doing all of the basics right, all of the foundational elements right, and another business is doing the same, then how do you build brand loyalty? How do you build emotional connections with the experiences that you give in your store or online? And that is your wow factors. How do you deliver something that makes people go, that was unexpected? And it is that it's not meeting the expectations, it's exceeding the expectations. And that's where the relationship builds.
So let's just talk wow factors for me, examples that come to mind. Events in your store. So if you've got in-store, you could even have Facebook Lives, I think is a great wow factor, connecting, demoing for people. Then you've got special things you might throw in, a little lolly or something, or a handwritten note with your parcels if you're sending them out. Your website could have additional photos or a short video of products that people see when they are looking at the product to give them more information. So the above and beyond, those things that extra little, wow.
And look, there will be, even from a social media perspective, links. My wife's dance studio links to the Instagram account, and the Instagram account has social media posts by people who have interacted with the studio, and they've loaded it and hashtagged the studio, or @mentioned Jackie or whoever it happens to be. That goes straight to the Instagram feed that's on the website, and we get a lot of clicks on that Instagram feed of people going, I actually want to know what it's like in the studio. And I see this Instagram feed of videos and photos and all that sort of stuff. And people go, wow, that looks like a place I want to go to. That looks like a business I want to interact with.
It's your free marketing. So
it is absolutely free.
So it might cost you to do it, and you may not. I mean, some of these things are obviously going to be built around sales on the day or around a certain amount of time, but other ones are going to be just sitting there for other reasons. And part of that could be for the free promotional material. So yes, there's a cost there, but you're getting something, at the end of the day.
One of the wow factors that a business can give is just having their staff passionate about what they do. If you've got in-store staff who genuinely love what they do, and you can foster that by encouraging them to have those experiences, empower them to give beyond the thing. And I've had businesses that I've talked to who have actually, a good example was a business that sells telescopes. They sell telescopes and professional microscopes and all that sort of stuff. So they're basically in an e-optics business. This staff member came up with this idea one day and approached his boss about it. He said, I want to get lens cleaners, a little spray and a little wiper lens cleaner, microfiber cloth lens cleaner. I'd like to give those away to anybody who sort of buys a specific type of telescope. And the boss went, I can't see we can justify that. Our margins are really low. And he said, well, let's up the margins slightly and give this away. The boss empowered that person, said, okay, well, you go and find them. You go and tell me where they are. And he found this exciting for him as a staff member. He went, hang on, you've just empowered me to do a marketing promotion for your business. Let's do this. And this guy found an AliExpress seller who could produce 1,000 of these, branded for the business. Now, when anybody who buys this telescope goes home, there on their dish just underneath their telescope that holds all their extra lenses and everything is a spray bottle and a microfiber cleaning cloth, both that are branded for this particular telescope sales company. And it's branded that way, and people go, oh, I need to clean the lens. Oh, is this who you bought it from? It's there, right, in their face.
No.
Because that person was empowered, I know because I bought a telescope from them, this particular person has worked there for 18 years. That idea came up 18 years ago. He has worked for the same business 18 years. He now manages one of their 2 stores. They've got one in Melbourne, one in Sydney. And he is literally the most passionate person about what he does that you will ever meet. I go in there and I get an experience that it's got nothing to do with the prices aren't cheap.
No.
I can buy it cheaper online. I can get no better expertise. I can get no better experience in relation to things. And he remembers my name.
Yeah.
Now that's a hygiene factor. Remembering people's names is a hygiene factor. Still, it's a bit of wow in today's day and age compared to most other organisations.
Yep. I remember I told you this. I'm hopeless with names, but I could remember a customer would come in and I'd say, you bought the 8.5 Vienna and we went with gold. And they're like, oh, how do you remember that from last year? Because it was always a year. Yeah. But I always remembered what they bought more so than names.
And that's just as important.
But they loved it. It was important.
You've actually held on to them. What that does is it sets up a value in them coming in to see you. At the end of the day, just got to remember that it is 5 times more cost effective to retain a customer than it is to acquire one.
Absolutely.
Every single time you have a customer come to your online store, or every single time you have a customer come into your bricks and mortar store, it is another opportunity for you to build that brand loyalty, build that store loyalty. And we've had this discussion before that loyalty doesn't have to be monogamous.
That's right.
And that's something that I have to teach a lot of people. Loyalty doesn't have to be monogamous. Sure, in a marriage it should be. In a retail environment, it doesn't have to be. I can still be loyal to your business and go and buy. The example was Christmas tree ornaments. I will still come and buy all my Christmas tree ornaments from you, but I might buy my lights from somewhere else.
Yep.
Because I love your ornaments and I love their lights.
And I must say it took me a long time to get used to this because I would put a lot of effort into the wow factor. Yeah. I was doing a lot of extra things for our customers. And then I would see them corresponding on the social media with one of my competitors. I'd be like, oh my God. And it felt very personal.
You betrayed me.
Yeah. Why bother? Why bother? But totally, you've got to step away and go, they are loyal, but they're loyal to multiple businesses.
Yeah. And that's fine. Yeah. And in fact, the only way that you can, and you shouldn't combat that. Right? You should. The only way that you can tackle that in any way, shape or form is by just delivering better experiences yourself. don't try and fight it. Don't try and resist it. Certainly never bring up a customer on that. Like never take them to task on it.
No.
I've seen people do it.
Oh.
And a great example was in a mower store in which I walked into the middle of what was World War III, I thought, because this guy had seen another person's mower repair sticker underneath a mower that he had been repairing for 8 years.
Oh my God.
So this guy moved in 8 years to go into the area, got his mower repaired. This guy, he'd repaired it several times over the 8 years, and he came in and saw somebody else's mower repair sticker stuck in underneath the bell of the mower. And he was taking this guy to task. He said, why would you do this, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, after the diatribe had finished, he said, I lent it to my next door neighbour while I was away overseas, and something happened, and that's who he took it to. So it wasn't me at all. Don't appreciate the absolute onslaught I just got. I think I might just head home now. I watched him walk out of the store and I went, you've just lost a client, possibly for life. It was a really interesting experience. But it's an extreme example, but it happens. Just accept that they will go elsewhere. Love them when they're in the store.
Yeah. And actually going elsewhere just reminds me of the other thing. When you've got customers in a store and you can't help them, you don't have the solution, you're often better off, I think, letting them walk, helping them. You might say so-and-so, and even if it is one of those competitors, but they're still going to remember that you help them normally and that you're actually trying to solve their problems rather than sell them something that's not right for them.
Absolutely. It's what I call the Miracle on 34th Street methodology. There is a great movie, if you've not seen it, Miracle on 34th Street. See the original, please. Santa in Coles, the Coles store, he actually tells people where to get a particular product. If they don't sell it, he could actually tell off the top of his head where they could get it. And he would even suggest things like, oh, by the way, if you go there now, there's a coupon and you can get it there. I am 100%, 1000% behind this methodology. I used it back in the days when I was changing the relationship of this particular organisation that I worked for after Deakin. I would actually tell my staff, you are not salespeople, you are specialists in this area. I want you to learn every aspect, including what our opposition and our competitors do. You need to spend time knowing that.
Yep.
Why? Not because we're going to try and challenge sale, and you'll hear lots of terminology out there like challenge sale and objection handling and that sort of stuff. Don't handle objections. Please, for God's sakes, don't handle objections. Understand what your customer's need is and then work out the best way to deliver that. If you can't deliver it because you don't offer that product or service, or you don't offer the breadth of solution that they need, help them to find it. If you can and you understand, help them find it. The interesting thing back in those days, I had a client who was particularly interested in something that only Microsoft offered at that stage. I couldn't offer it. I could offer something very similar, but it wasn't the same and it wouldn't have delivered everything they wanted. Parts of what they wanted, I could do way better than Microsoft could. But Microsoft themselves were the only people with the entire solution. It wasn't as good in parts as mine, but it was the entire. So I actually suggested to them, somebody who would be traditionally seen as our competitor, I'd said, hey, these are the guys that I would trust most in the industry. I think you should go and have a chat to them. So they went and had a chat to them, and I got a call out of the blue from one of their top account representatives who said, sorry, can I just ask why you would even suggest them to come to us? They told me that you suggested it, and I said, because that's what they needed. That client came back to me 2 weeks later and said, I've changed my mind. I actually do want that solution, and I'm going to get that solution from Microsoft, but I want this part of the solution from you because I've decided that the value that's delivered by that in just this area outweighs the need for a holistic solution that delivers everything.
Yeah.
Great for me.
Yeah.
That was a $2,000 customer per month that they were offering. $2,000 per month that they just said, I just want that from you. So do it.
And those people will rave. Your customers who solve the problems, they might even say, I ended up getting it here, but oh my God, you've got to go and see these guys because they've got a great range and the service is amazing.
But also, they put me over their profit. They could have shoehorned me into a solution that they had or to a product that they had, but they actually said, no, I'm hearing what you need and what you're telling me you need is actually something else.
Yep.
So go and have a look there because I think that's where you'll find it.
Yep.
And if they do find it over there, I guarantee you they're going to come back to you for something else in the future, because they will always remember that you put them first.
Yeah.
And that customer first mentality, it doesn't have to be business last.
Oh,
right?
Yes.
You don't have to think, oh, if I'm putting the customer first, I'm putting my business last.
That's right.
It is not the case. It is just about thinking about lifetime customer value is customer first, right? You are not thinking about what happens today. You're thinking about the next 10 years. And you can absolutely win a customer by sending them somewhere else.
And that doesn't mean that if a customer is rude, wrong, appalling in dealing with you, that doesn't mean you have to accept that and take that. That's a totally different situation. Nope. And I think that people can get confused. I'm so glad, because as soon as you said customer first, I thought people fight that because they think then they're putting themselves down.
Yep.
No, it's win-win. Everything in life, I think, should be win-win. And if you can get the customer happy, your business is going to get the sales as well.
And if you think about a customer who comes into your store who is rude, aggressive, belligerent, wants to barter down every single price that you've got, if that's your ideal customer profile, you and I and Nicole need to have a really good chat. Most likely, I'd say 99% sure, that's not your ideal customer profile. So you're not actually targeting your business or anything at that particular person. So feel free to say, look, I understand where you're coming from. I understand that you're frustrated, or I understand what you're asking for. Unfortunately, that's not what I can help you with. I really don't know of a business that would actually be able to give you everything you want at half price. So, maybe you might need to look online. But that's all I can suggest, unfortunately. But thanks for your time. Have a great day. Good luck with the rest of your day.
As you say, they may actually buy something, which means they're a customer, but they're not. They're not your ideal customer. So always focus on who that ideal customer is. Accept and work with the others around the side, because they're critical as well. You're always going to have other people buy from you, but you're always talking to the ideal customer.
Said to somebody the other day, they said, look, I'm not prepared to say I've got an ideal customer and that's where I'm going to focus all my energy and all my effort. He said, because there's plenty of customers out there and maybe not all of them are ideal, but I want their money from all of them. And I said, that's great, except you're already complaining that you're too busy. And I can tell you now that if you run more than one race, you will lose both of them, right? You cannot win running more than one race at one time. So figure out what race you want to run. And if it is pursuing and achieving the optimal lifetime customer value with your ideal customer profile, that is the race that you should run.
Yeah.
But if you want to chase more than one rabbit, you're not going to catch either.
Yeah, absolutely.
The only other thing I would say is that brand loyalty is not something that you achieve from cards that you can punch every time you do a sale. It's not something that you achieve from point systems. It is something that is achieved by a seamless and enjoyable interaction that happens every single time they come into the store, coupled by occasional well-placed wow factors that make them walk away and go, I love coming there. I love interacting with those people. I love seeing Nicole in store. Even if I've had a crap day, I can walk out feeling a little bit Christmas. And I used to, many years ago in high school, I worked at Dick Smith as a nerd as I am. And I used to be literally in Victoria. I was at one point their top computer salesperson because I loved computers. I knew everything about them and I was geeking out every time I walked into work, and I would literally hover and find out what the latest thing was. There's a lot of businesses out there and they are geeky about their business, right? They are passionate about it. They know everything about it. They've got to impart that. They've got to share that love that they have with the people who come to their business. Yeah. And just that alone can make those people walk out going, you know what? Miner's Den is a good example. The Miner's Den who do, sell prospecting and gold panning and stuff like that. Every single person in that organisation is a geek about mining and about prospecting and about fossicking and treasure hunting. And you walk into that store and you walk out going, do you know what? I could be Indiana Jones this weekend. I'm going to do something. And that's what they're like. That is great, because I didn't even buy anything in the store. I just went for some advice. But I guarantee you, when I'm ready to buy, I'm going back there.
Absolutely. I do say though, you mentioned loyalty program. I actually think a loyalty program is a nice add-on. I totally agree. We've got to get everything else right. But just to put it out there, because I actually think, particularly these days with discounting being seen as a loyalty program makes you feel like it's okay to pay full price for something because I'm going to get something good at and it's kind of that, housewife math thing.
But that's not the solution to brand loyalty or to store loyalty.
No.
It is absolutely, it's one of the wow factors. It is absolutely something that you should offer if it's not disingenuous with the way in which you interact, because you don't want it to be something where people go, hang on, why have I got a loyalty card for pool cleaning? Like, I've got to get my pool cleaned anyway. It's not like I'm really looking forward to the 5th one free or whatever it happens to be. A cafe, absolutely. A bookstore, love it. Love a loyalty program at a bookstore. And you know what? One of the great bookstore experiences I had with loyalty programs was if you bought a certain amount of books per year, and it was just something like 5 books per year from the physical bricks and mortar store, you were on the list to get an invite every single time they had an author come out and do a signing or whatever. Now, not every author was an author I was interested in. Not every type of book that they wrote was. But the fact that I was on that list and the fact that at one point Terry Pratchett was somebody who came out and signed books, I just went, I'm on the freaking list. I never went off that list for 15 years. That bookstore did close down in COVID, unfortunately. They didn't make it through. But for 15 years, I did not fall off that list. I would go in there and just buy 5 books in a weekend to make sure that I stayed on the list. I
love that you brought that up because this is, and I did share this with you and you blew my mind, and it is about a bookshop.
Yes.
So my husband buys from the same bookshop all the time. He has to drive there. It has no loyalty program. He might get general emails, but nothing specific to his books. It's all mystery books.
Yep.
So they don't have a cafe or anything in there. They don't do discounts. And I don't understand why he's loyal to this company, because he could get the same books. The books he buys are at department stores and obviously online sellers. And you told me why. Please share, because this is actually, I think, the gold. Everything else has been awesome, but I think this bit of information is gold.
It all comes down to comfort zones.
And I told my husband after we spoke, and he laughed, which is effectively my husband saying, you are so right.
Yeah. So gyms, insurance companies,
yes,
they all live off the comfort zones and how long it takes you to disrupt your comfort zone. They make ridiculous amounts of money off the fact that somebody's comfort zone, think about a gym membership. Many people out there watching this will go, I've had a gym membership and I've barely ever used it, or I've had a gym membership and I haven't used it in the last 8 months. It is outside of your comfort zone to go and address that situation. It is outside of your comfort zone to go and, stop that, because you have to admit, I'm not coming back. That is well outside your comfort zone. At the moment, your comfort zone is worth more to you than the cost of that. However, insurance companies do that because they know that it takes a lot of effort to go and change an insurance company.
And I've just spent an entire day with a new car on the phone to insurance companies, and I've never done that because it's too hard. I don't know if I trust the other guys. And exactly what you're saying is, again, it's like, oh my God, that's why I haven't bothered dealing with this in the past.
Yep. It's why businesses like Compare the Market and that sort of stuff make that business work, is because they take a lot of that effort out to get you to disrupt your comfort zone. Your husband has a comfort zone. That comfort zone is that bookshop. And regardless of the fact that they're not doing wow factors for him, regardless of the fact that it is not as convenient as Amazon or Booko online or whatever it happens to be, that's his comfort zone. Regardless of how uncomfortable it might be or how much effort it takes, it's his comfort zone. And that is more sticky than a lot of other things.
Why I think it's gold is because, and I think of my father in this example. So his comfort zone was always originally going into shops, and then it was, having to call up and talk to people. He's into a lot of hobbies, so, talking to everyone elsewhere. But now he's got used to buying online. And now he's also got used to Amazon. And now he's just bought his first Temu thing.
Oh, gosh.
Now, I'm not suggesting that any of those are great moves. But what I'm saying is it's real, it's out there. And as retailers, if we think that these customers are coming back to us for false reasons, for reasons we assume,
Yep.
rather than also being aware that there's a percentage of them that is still coming to us because of the comfort zone situation. Because and my husband laughed because I said, "You don't know how to use Amazon, do you?" That is
All
why.
it takes is somebody to disrupt that, and you are going to lose it. Now, and you're right, assuming that you know the reasons that your clients are coming to you, that your customers are coming in the door or coming to your site, assuming that you know is a massive mistake. Ask. Actually make the effort. Ask. Customer surveys, post-selling feedbacks, even dropped cart feedbacks. If you know this person, they've logged in and they don't complete their cart, don't just send them a thing saying, "Hey, you've left this in the cart." Ask them why. These are not big hurdles to overcome, to ask questions. When customers are in their store, there's two things I suggest every bricks and mortar store to do. One is just say to a new customer, "Hey, how did you hear about us? Were you just wandering by, or did you Google us, or whatever?" Find out where your traffic comes from. The second thing is, for every person who makes a purchase in your store, whether they are old or new or whatever it happens to be, have a QR code with an NFC enabled thing just that they can either tap on or they can scan it with their phone, and get them to do a review for you right then and there. Just ask them if they'll do it, because a review can actually really work in your favour.
I'm going to pull you up on that one a little bit. Yeah.
Okay.
Don't disagree with
No.
the idea of reviews for the value it brings. But my son actually had that experience buying a phone case.
Yep.
And so they said, "Give us a review while you're in there." And I think he got maybe a percentage off or something. But even if it's not, but if you're there, you're not. So it's great for gathering reviews, because most people in your store are going to give you 5 stars.
Yep.
So I see the value. As far as getting feedback on whether you're doing things well, people in the store are not going to tell you that information in that review.
Absolutely. You are absolutely correct. This is to sort of support your brand presence, right? So that's all it is for.
Yes.
I don't like the idea of, "Hey, give a review, I'll give you a percentage off." I think that's disingenuous because it's paying for the review, and I don't feel like that's right. Everything about that makes me feel ick. And that's one of those moments, right? That's what we were talking about before. One of those moments where you have that, moment. No. I'm asking for a review. I'm just saying, "Hey, listen, I would really love a review."
Yep.
There's a thing there if you want to do it now.
Yep,
Otherwise, just take some time, find us something. It just helps us to be here next year when you want us again.
Yeah. Or I'd go back a step and even try and get their email address, and then you could send them a review request. So you've got their email first as
Oh, you should always be getting...
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, when I'm dealing with business clients in a professional sense with corporates, one of the key interactions I have with all of their sales staff, or all their specialists, as I like to call them, is always have a value add that you can send to them. Like, always have something that you can go, "Oh, by the way, there's a really great YouTube article on how to use that."
Yeah.
The YouTube thing on how to use that. I saw it the other week. Have you got an email address? So I can email it to you, right? Or I saw a really good LinkedIn article about such and such that's relevant to what we were just talking about. I call it premeditated ad lib.
Yep.
Right? So you have a library of things that you can ad lib in any given situation with a particular customer, that when they say, "Oh, XYZ," you can go, "Actually, I saw this, or I watched this, or I heard this the other day, or whatever. Can I send it to you? Have you got an email address? And I'll send it to you." You capture their email address, and then while you're doing that, you're sending it to them. Part of that email can be actually, "Do you mind if we include you in, more marketing? Click here, and we can send you more information like this in the future." Lots of customers go, "Yep, no problems."
Yeah. As long as you're helping and solving problems all the way.
Delivering value.
Yeah.
That's it.
And to go back to what we were just talking about, I don't raise the Amazon and Temu and all those to make everyone roll their eyes and go, "Oh, bloody hell,"
Yep.
But it's also ridiculous that we don't realise that is one of the threats. And one of my previous guests, Karen Thrussell, was telling us 25% of sales last year in Australia were Amazon, Shein, Temu, which is just horrifying to me. I think it's really important, as you're saying, to work out why people come into your store, so that you're not relying on them and they're just in a comfort zone, because as soon as they start moving out, you could lose them forever. There's no connection that makes them go, "You're giving me something like the authors coming and having an invitation. Or for this one, I would have said that if they were actually had a loyalty program where they recognised what my husband was reading and send him recommendations, hey, this new book's coming out, rather than him having to read it on the Age and go to them, then they would be keeping him and there would be a legit reason for him to continue to deal with them.
Well, all of a sudden they've got a unique value proposition that Amazon's not giving him, right? Or Amazon may be giving him as well, but he's already got it.
And he's
so
already
he doesn't
likes
need to
you.
move. Yeah, and he doesn't need to move out of his comfort zone because he gets all that.
Yeah.
It only takes somebody to offer to disrupt and make it easier for your clients to go somewhere else and to get a unique value proposition that you're currently not offering. Unless you understand what your clients are after, you don't know what the reason they're coming to the store. It might be just immediacy, right? You know, you've got to think about these things. It might be just they're coming in because they're there.
Yep.
They're coming in because they need it now. They're coming in there because they need advice. I've had a lot of discussions with retailers who've struggled with the idea that customers are coming in to get advice from them and then they leave the store and go and buy it online. Unfortunately, that's a reality. Unless you have a compelling reason why they should buy it there then.
And it doesn't have to be discount.
Nope.
But it's got to be, as you said, a value proposition that makes the entire relationship worth whatever discount they could get elsewhere.
So there was a store called Bernard's Magic Shop. I used to work as a magician for many
Throw
many
that
years.
into the resume.
Yeah. For many years, I worked part-time as a magician. It's a great money earner on the side. Plus, it basically patted my creative side, kept it happy. I used to visit this place called Bernard's Magic Shop. Bernard's Magic Shop had the ultimate sales mechanism. And it was, once you purchased it, I'm going to show you how to use it.
Yeah.
Right? It was that. It was, I can show you the magic trick right here and right now. I can show you how it's performed.
Yeah. But
you don't get to understand the secret. You don't get to understand the workings until you've purchased it. Once you've purchased it, I take you through the curtain and I show you that. Now, that's an extreme example. However, if you are interacting with a client in your store and you have some value to add beyond the purchase, tell them that. Say, hey, tell you what, when you've got this, grab whatever else you need, but when you've got this, come and see me because I'm going to tell you how to do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to tell you how to go the extra mile. I'm going to tell you how to use that within this, which is not the standard way of using it, but you can use it for this as well. So come and see me. I guarantee you that will increase tenfold your ability to close that sale in that moment because that person will be going, if I go online, I'm not going to get that value add. And that's it. They're going to go and find it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's all those sorts of things. Understanding what your clients are actually there for is essential and what brings them in. Ask them questions. It's not hard. And to be honest, it might be outside of your comfort zone to ask the question, but that's what we're all here for.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And I think that's it. We're always fearful of what we're going to hear, but take that advice because 9 out of 10 are going to actually give you good feedback. Most likely, if you're doing this, if you're following these programs and you're aware, I think if you're aware of the importance of customer experience and aware of putting your customer first and making sure you solve their problems, then you're actually ahead of a lot of others to start with.
And if you're not, you'll get there.
Yeah.
Because continuous improvement is only driven by the customer feedback.
Yeah.
It's the only way that you get better.
Yeah.
I mean, you can trim your value chains in your merchandise and you can make your processes better and you can do all that sort of stuff. You can absolutely manage the business factors. But at the end of the day, the only thing that will keep you going is those customers coming to your site or in your store. The only way that you do that and consistently make it happen throughout their lifetime is to really understand who they are and what their needs are and make sure that you can meet them.
Yeah.
And if you can't, let them know that earlier rather than later. Don't wait until the end of a 20-minute conversation to say, yeah, okay, we can't do that.
Yeah. Wow.
It's a lot.
Okay. It's a lot. It is a lot. I'm looking at the time and going, this has been amazing.
Awesome.
We are definitely going to talk AI separately, and I think we need to do it more visually. A podcast is, I think, a bit tricky, but anyway, we'll talk about that. But I think there's a lot of value there. Thank you so much, Matt. It always makes me pretty excited to chat and exchange views on how we can do this better, and it's exciting.
Yeah, look, it is. But as I said earlier, right at the start, it can feel overwhelming. At the end of the day, start small. I used to tell my daughter's a nurse, and doing a nursing degree in COVID was overwhelming because the teachers themselves didn't even understand how to do it. I would always tell her, whenever you're faced with a massive challenge, one positive change, right? Yeah. Just make one positive change, work on that, figure out how that can be optimized, then move on to the next. Just one positive change at a time. If you can make one good customer experience change, it could be just looking at the shop blindness that you have, your ability to see the way your point of sale is set up through fresh eyes, empower one of your staff to do it. Yep. Actually ask one of your staff, I want you to have a fresh look at our point of sale and figure out whether there's a better way we can do things just there at that space where the customer's standing while they're making a payment. Do that, then move on to something else, then move on to something else. But one positive change at a time. And try it for a couple of weeks. Don't settle on it. Don't say that is the right point of sale scenario for us. See how it works for a couple of weeks and analyze it, and then look at something else. But that's the way you sort of move ahead.
You're so right. And don't even put the other things on your to-do list. Just you might have customer experience, and then this week it's POS system. Yep. And then once you've got that nailed, then you can change what you're dealing with. But it's just, I love that because we put too much pressure on ourselves to get it all done yesterday. And we can't. We're looking at brick walls and we're trying to change brick walls, and we need to look at bricks. Absolutely.
And if you make too many changes at once, you can't identify where it worked or where it didn't work. Yep. Because you're not sure. If you change the POS, and I say point of sale, and I actually mean the physical location of point of sale, not the actual system. If you change the point of sale location and the way things are set up there, your impulse buys and that sort of stuff. And at the same time, you're changing the way the staff interact at the end of the thing, asking for a review or whatever it happens to be. You actually might get a positive or a negative impact from that, and you can't tell whether it was that change you made or that change you made. One thing at a time. Always test it for a couple of weeks. Don't make that's our end product.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you so much, Matt.
Anytime.
This has been an absolute pleasure. I'll be sharing Matt's contact details on the show notes for anyone, and we'll be sharing it on Instagram as well, and I'll share your LinkedIn on there so that people can be in touch with Matt if they've got questions. For anyone new to the podcast, if you haven't subscribed, I'd love you to subscribe to the podcast. Share it with any business colleagues that you have who might be interested as well. But for today, that is it. Thanks again, and we'll see everyone soon.
Thanks.
Thanks.